it's not maybe the ideal Puritan society with his roll of fat and his crazy lady armpit and the center appendix, right? I like the center appendix. I tend to think of the sinners over here. Yeah, chocolate ice cream, exactly. I was kind of thinking the same ways, right? Which is like that the sinners need to be expelled from the society, and they were part of the society at some point. This is a mind bender. Like, this was you at one point. When does this not become you anymore? But basically, they've expelled the sinners, right? And so the sinners are still like somehow human in some ways, and yet they're not like a part of the body anymore. That might be one way of seeing them. I like this idea of the sinners being the fat on the body. Why did you guys say that?
Because it's like, yeah, it's kind of a burden and it's excess and it's not needed, but it's still a part of you, and like,
yeah,
it's not something that you can just instantly get rid of all of it.
Okay, good. Yeah, so it's like, it's a part of you, but it's a part of you that you feel like a burden lugging around, maybe, that it's like this part of you that ideally maybe you wouldn't want it there. But there's also something to be said here about like embracing it then as part of the body, right? Like, nobody could live a life without some fat. And so there's something here about like cushioning the rest of, I mean, that sounds like an offensive term, but like for real, cushioning the rest of the society against like other hardships maybe. Okay, tell me about why we have some confusion here with where to put the priests or ministers. So for those of you who put it in the heart, why did you guys say priests or ministers? According to Winthrop, again, this body politic metaphor, why did you say in the heart? Yeah, Sam.
Because they were supposed to be like the ones that love everybody together.
Okay, good. Good. Now I just want to go to the Winthrop and we can have this open as we talk. He says, there is no body but consists of parts, and that which knits these parts together, gives the body its perfection, is love. So what you're saying is that because the priest or minister kind of like preach love, like they're going to be the mouthpiece of the society maybe, ooh, I said mouthpiece, but here they are at the center in the heart. And if we think of like maybe the love then getting pumped to all the extremities. Yeah, Emily?
Maybe both,
Okay.
because especially in that time, the clergymen were the leaders of the society.
Okay, good.
So I think it belongs in both spots.
And what makes them the leaders up here at the head? Why do we put leaders in the head? Because we do have governor, the priest, the king. We'll talk about the rich here in a second. But why in the head for the leaders? Lily? Okay, good. And we're kind of associating that then with the brain. With the brain. Here's where we make the decisions. Okay, so then you're saying that it's more associated with the mouth.
Wait, can I have another funny part?
Yeah.
You grouped it to the eyes, we made them gossipers, and I thought it was really funny.
Oh, okay, wait. I'm sticking with this brown. These are gossipers?
Yeah.
Great. It looks beautiful. Okay, so for those of you who put the priest up in the head. Okay, so why did you guys here? Because I heard from them why they had the priests in the heart. Why did you put the priest in the head then? Because we had making decisions. Was that your recent reason? Okay, sorry. Anybody else put the priests or the ministers up in the head? Okay, what does it tell us about the society that the governor and the priest are both in the head?
Back then, religion had a lot of say in government because religion pretty much was the government.
Yeah, good. Sarah, what were you going to say?
Similar to that, where like all of it was based off of the religion, and all of their laws were based off of religion, what they are fully for that.
Yeah, good. So it's like, I'm trying to find where he actually says that that's exactly how he wants it to be. Okay, here it is on the second page. The paragraph starts secondly. Wait, let's everybody go to the window. So it says, secondly, for the work we have in hand is by mutual consent through a special overvaluing providence and a more than ordinary approbation of the churches of Christ to seek out a place of cohabitation and consortship under a due form of government, both civil and ecclesiastical. So what these guys are saying is like, that's not only the way it was, that was the way that it ideally was set up to be by Winthrop. He's saying that this is an ideal society where the government and the church work together to make decisions. And there's a word there that I think is really important where it says under a due form of government, both civil and ecclesiastical. So to me, because of the under, that signals to me that Winthrop wants them associated with the head. And maybe it is both. Maybe it's the head speaking to the heart. For the clarity of the argument, I'm going to do this. Because it's the government and the priests working together to make the decisions and then to speak the decisions, right? And the rest of the citizenship listen to their authority, not just because they're associated with the law, and not just because they're associated with religion, but because they are both. So I think the group that put God outside the system up here in the head was really, really smart about that, because basically these guys up here are hearing what God says in some form, not in like the personal revelation form that you might be familiar with, but are interpreting at least what God says. And then they, the governor and the priests, the kings, are kind of speaking out what that says, and the rest of the body has to follow the decisions that are made up at the top of the head, right? Okay, now tell me about where we put the rich. We've got the rich here, and we've got the rich in the head. Looks like that's it. Okay, why are the rich the arm? Kate? Or the head, whatever you said.
I think it's the head because they kind of can do whatever they want and control what society does, I guess.
Okay, good. What I like about this is maybe these two people are the same, kind of. The rich people either have the ear of the government or are the government. Yeah.
And that for the same reason what Kate is probably putting in the arm, specifically the right arm, because the right arm is what for a lot of us is what gets things done.
Ah, good.
Almost like an enforcer in a way.
Ah, I like that. It's a kind of enforcer. You could be a very efficient laborer without an arm, couldn't you? I get into some weird ableist stuff with the body politic, but you could chop off an arm and your society could still run. It might not be full, but it could still run. And I think that's really important here. Yeah.
You say for putting it in the head, it's also, first of all, a lot of the people like the governors and the priests and the kings were rich people. So rich could also be used as a description rather than its own class.
Yeah.
But also it's kind of like the face of what everyone sees. Like when you're going into a town, assuming it's well off, you're gonna notice the rich things. That's why the king has like a grand castle and everything is to impress and to show off.
Ah, okay. So the rich is like the kind of like pleasing facade of a nice face, then kind of a little bit. Not necessarily the decision makers, but I like this word enforces, but like inspires the decisions too. Okay, and then lots of people here are putting our working class down here in the legs. Now, why is that the case? Yeah.
It's like a social pyramid, right? You can't have the power parts without the body.
Yes, okay, good. So you're getting kind of to what my point was about, like, can the body function well without certain parts, right? And without the arm, you could kind of see how the body politic could still function. Without a leg, though, you lose a lot of the labor, right? And again, I'm sorry, I know this sounds like ableist is what it is, but in terms of the metaphor, you lose some labor. If you had no laborers, then you lose complete mobility. You're not able to work in the mines anymore. You're not able to harvest the resources anymore. It's tough. Yeah.
The legs kind of push and move the civilization forward.
Okay, good.
When arms and stuff kind of help them, but those are the things actually pushing them along and make them go forward.
Oh, I like the way that you're saying that. Yeah. There is this famous essay called The Big Toe. It was written in the 1930s. It was like this weird surrealist writer. And he wrote this whole essay about how people think that the important stuff happens up here, that we like worship the head. All of our metaphors are about how things lower to the ground are worse and things higher up are more divine and wonderful. And he was saying that that's actually not true at all, that this is a metaphor that we've stuck to. And actually the most important part, is that a toe? There we go. I'm going to erase it. The most important part of the human body is the big toe, because without the big toe, you lose stability. And so he's like, the most important part of our society then is the most disgusting, reviled, horrific part of the body. He thinks he's not a fan of toes, I guess. But it is actually the very most important because it has that balance and that propelling, right? And so there's like, but for Winthrop, I think you're right in putting them down here to keep the body standing upright. Nathan?
You could also tie this with the head and something, but like when you take a fall, if you hit your head, it's going to be a lot more detrimental. But usually, any normal fall, you're going to take with your legs. So the kind of workers and the laborers take most of the hardships and stuff. And if the head and like the rich and the government do have to end up taking hardships, it's a lot worse for everything else.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, I think most of our injuries are we're stubbing our toes or hitting our knees, or yeah, it's taking most of the bruises there too. Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this: how do we know when sinners are sinners in this system? Yeah, Ben.
One of the things that I've like read about and written about in our assignments is that it's the society itself that chooses the laws. And it's not a fact that you go somewhere and all the laws are the same. This is our society. These are the rules that we want to follow by. If you come here, we expect you to follow by those. And if you decide otherwise, then at that point, we're allowed to do stuff because you came here very well knowing of the things that we have decided on and that we are staying here because that we made.
Okay, good. So you're talking about a social contract among people, right? So it's like, yeah, maybe all of us would like to, you know, find Dimsdales of our own or whatever. But the society we've lived in has this contract that says if you have an adulterous affair, you're going to get kicked out. And so it's kind of, you're saying it's everybody who kind of then decides to agree to certain laws to live in that society. Yeah, I totally agree. Under this system, though, once you're already in it, who ultimately is the one who passes out punishment or passes out praise for actions? It's going to be up here, right? And it's going to move downward. So these guys might tell the arms to do certain things or the legs or whatever, right? And then your point about the heart being Christians, I kind of also like just the idea that the heart is love. So let's look at Winthrop. What is his main argument about how we should treat each other in this essay? How does he want his city on a hill to treat each individual?
Respect for their part in the community.
Yeah, good. I like that. Respect for their part in the community, right? It's and this is to say that they have respect for a particular and singular respect for himself. And because God is kind of, I mean, I don't think it's wrong to label this body God. He keeps calling it the body of Christ, you know? And so because you have a respect for yourself and your fellow being, then you will also show a respect for the glory of your creator by respecting this kind of model of a political society. So what this brings me to is, what if this guy down here invents something amazing and moves up the system? How do you think Winthrop feels? Maybe not invent. Let me say it a different way. Erase that hypothetical. Let's just say that these people down here are dissatisfied being down there, and they see like, oh, that guy up there seems like he's having a pretty good time. What is Winthrop's response to that? What are the poor supposed to do in this body? Yeah, Christian.
Stay poor because someone has to.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's this condition of yours. Some rich, some poor, some high and eminent in power and dignity, others mean and in subjection. That was given to you by God. God has decided that you entered into this world as a poor person, and so in order to respect God, you should stay poor. You should respect your position in this system, right? So these people, if they really hate it down here, they're just going to have to learn to deal with it. Their recourse is to respect God, so stay where you are, right? And these people up here, they are where God decided them to be. And God has decided that they are the best ones for the job of distributing information about what he wants. Okay, so with that in mind, I want us to read a paragraph from the Scarlet Letter. It's in your packets. So you're finding, oh, I have a different one. It's Scarlet Letter Excerpt 3. I'm gonna go outside today because the wind is crazy, so. Wind crazy down here? Who's been outside recently?
Yeah, it's just.
Okay. My cousin keeps texting me, and I guess our neighborhood, like half the trees in our neighborhood